So what's the deal with this egg epidemic? That's the question we're answering in this video. Why is the price of eggs so high right now? When is it going to end? And how the government may be making decisions that are actually increasing the price of eggs. We will talk about some actionable steps that you can take to reduce the effect of this egg shortage and price increase. And make sure you stay until the end because I'm going to be sharing with you how you can actually get some free cash back on those egg purchases during this time, which hopefully can reduce the impact of how expensive eggs are right now. So the main question is, why are the prices of eggs so high right now? So in short, the price of eggs is so high right now because there is an egg shortage in the United States. And this shortage is majorly caused by an outbreak of the bird flu among egg-laying hens across the country. This outbreak is known to be one of the largest in US history and has been affecting egg supplies since back in 2022, if you can remember, when we saw an initial increase in price in eggs because of this outbreak. Essentially, hens that are infected with this bird flu either reduce how many eggs they are laying or completely stop laying eggs altogether. It is known that about 14% of the population of eggs in the country has actually been infected with this bird flu. And this prevents egg suppliers from being able to sell the normal amount of eggs to retailers. It's really simply a supply and demand example. Generally, the demand for eggs hasn't changed across the country. For most Americans, eggs are a staple in their home, whether you're eating them for breakfast or using them in baked goods. And since the demand has generally stayed the same, but the supply has significantly decreased, it naturally causes a rise in eggs because the demand for them is much higher than what the supply can provide. Since the demand for eggs has generally stayed the same across the country, but the supply has decreased, this can ultimately drive the price of eggs up. On top of this egg shortage due to this outbreak of the bird flu among hens, 8 states have just implemented new laws to protect cage-free hens. Essentially, these laws ban the production and sale of conventional eggs for animal welfare reasons. The 8 states are Arizona, California, Colorado, Massachusetts, Michigan, Nevada, Oregon, and Washington state. So on top of an egg shortage that's affecting pretty much the entire country, retailers in these specific states are finding it even more difficult to supply these grocery stores with the needed amount of eggs to sell to customers because they're having to find new retailers that comply with all of these laws. Which means if you're in one of these 8 states, it may be even more difficult to find eggs. Like there may be more restrictions on the amount of eggs you can purchase in a store, and you may find that the prices are even more compared to other states. Being a California resident, and certainly being a Southern California resident right now, I've personally experienced this. I don't know how much it compares to other states that haven't had these laws enacted, but nearly every grocery store I've been to restricts the amount of dozens of eggs you can get, and also the prices have doubled, if not tripled, which is higher than the average price of egg increase across the entire country. I've seen it at Costco, Walmart, Target, all the major grocery stores around here, including Ralph's. And I've also seen retailers just completely out of eggs altogether. So the next question is, when is it going to end? And the short answer is we really don't know. There are going to be a lot of people out there, a lot of articles that you can find that are going to tell you or potentially try to scare you into thinking or convincing you that this egg price increase or the restrictions on eggs are here to stay, or that it's going to keep increasing. And really the honest answer is even the most well-educated economists are not going to be able to predict the future and what's going to happen with this egg shortage a lot, because this outbreak of the bird flu is really uncontrollable at this point. So until these egg suppliers can rebuild their chicken flocks, it's probably going to stay around the same. Ultimately, suppliers need to recover their production levels in order for suppliers to be able to meet the demand that customers have. That is completely separate from the laws that are enacted by those 8 states. Those 8 states, generally when you find that the government is restricting something in some way, the increase in price, you'll generally find that it falls onto the customer, because ultimately these egg suppliers, or any supplier for that matter, they have to run a business and they have to make money. So if laws are making it more strict for them to do their job, ultimately that price falls on the customer. And that leads me to my next question, is really, how is this affecting all of Americans? The overall outbreak of the bird flu affecting the quantity of eggs that are available is really affecting all Americans equally. But my argument is that an increase in price in eggs, whether it be because of an outbreak of a sickness with the chickens or because of laws with the government, I do understand that the government is trying to combat animal welfare as an issue. My question is, while we are dealing with this issue of an egg shortage with the bird flu outbreak, was this the time for the government to enact new laws that further restrict egg suppliers? And therefore, because they're restricting egg suppliers even more, it makes the price of eggs go up, which ultimately lands on the customer. Ultimately, that's my opinion. That's obviously not something I can fully answer. I don't know the hearts of politicians fully, but what I do know is that I see people in the grocery store, I see Americans hurting, and since eggs are such a staple in the American household, a bird flu affecting the quantity of eggs available is already having a large enough impact on Americans. The question is, was this really the right time for the government to come in and make additional decisions that actually make the cost of eggs higher than they already are? And this is a little bit of me jumping into my beef with the government implementing laws without fully thinking about how it's going to affect the day-to-day average American. Ultimately, politicians can be so far removed from, let's say, the single mom who's trying to feed her family. Their lives can look so different that it's hard for a politician to then make decisions based on how it's going to affect the average American. Because ultimately, politicians are not the average American. In many aspects of my life, I apply the serenity prayer, which starts with, God grant me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change. I can't change the fact that there is an outbreak among egg-laying hens right now, and I can't change the fact that the government is implementing new laws. Ultimately, that's above my power. And even closer to home, I can't change the prices of eggs, nor can I change the quantity restrictions on eggs in grocery stores. But the second part of the serenity prayer is, God grant me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change, courage to change the things that I can. So what is in my power to change? The question is, what can I do? And simple things like, honestly, adjusting your grocery budget. If you're not someone who wants to adjust how many eggs they're eating, you may have to adjust your grocery budget to account for the fact that eggs are going to be more expensive right now. And that may require you to reduce your budget in another area. On top of that, even further backing up, have a budget. So having a budget, making sure that every month you know how much money is going towards your groceries, gives you permission when you go to the grocery store to actually purchase those eggs. I think a lot of people are going into the grocery store, the word I'm going to use is shaming themselves into thinking, I shouldn't be spending that much money on eggs. When you give yourself permission, which is what a budget is, to be able to go spend that money at the grocery store, you remove some of that shame of when you're in the grocery store of whether or not you should spend that much money on eggs. If you decide more so remindedly when you're at home, deciding on your budget, going into the grocery store, you're much less likely to make emotional decisions. And on the flip side, you can actually also just reduce how many eggs you're consuming. I mean, eggs are so expensive right now. They're nearly, at where I live, they're about $1 per egg, which can add up, certainly if you're eating more than 2 or 3 per day. And that sounds kind of silly. Some people feel like they can adjust how they eat and add different meals to their repertoire to substitute for meals that probably would involve eggs. And this is more so something that we've implemented. I'm not a huge egg eater, certainly for breakfast. Noah is more of an egg eater. But since the prices of eggs, and honestly, since it's been a little bit more difficult to find eggs, we have been eating other things for breakfast, like yogurt bowls, oatmeal bowls. Generally, I'm not eating eggs. I don't love eggs a ton, but I do like to bake. I have not reduced how much I do bake, but baking doesn't require a ton of eggs. But something else we've also done is actually use the app Ibotta, so I've talked a lot about Ibotta on my channel before. It is an app I've been using for probably 10 years now. It's one of my favorite apps, but the reason I'm specifically talking about them in this video is because every Friday for this month, at least for this month, they may extend it, they are coming out with a new rebate every Friday for $2.50 back for any purchase of eggs. So that means that on Friday, you have to go in, add the offer to your account, and then that Friday, go purchase the eggs at any store, any grocery store, Walmart, Target, Ralph's, wherever you live. And then you can redeem for that rebate the same day and you'll get that $2.50 back, which for me, when I did it last week, reduced my dozen eggs from $8.50 to $6. On top of that, I do have a referral code. If you have not downloaded Ibotta before, you will get a free $5 back when you submit your first receipt. So that could actually get you almost an entire dozen of eggs for free. I'll drop the referral code down in the description bar as well as a link, and I'll also pin it in a comment down below. Ultimately, there are a lot of things that we can't change about what's going on in the economy that is out of our power. But the final part of the serenity prayer is and the wisdom to know the difference. So knowing where I end, what things I can change and what things I cannot change, that is where we start growing as humans. What goes on in the economy is something that is a lot bigger than all of us. Most of us don't have the power to make significant changes that impact a significant amount of people in this country. But ultimately, staying within ourselves, doing the things that we can change is where we can ultimately find some peace. So thank you for watching this video. If you have made it this far, like and subscribe, share this with some other people, and I will see you guys in the next video. Bye guys.